Okay, I think we're going to answer a couple of questions and not start the actual talk until 3 o'clock because I know there are still people kind of trickling in, and I don't want anybody to miss out that was trying to get here. So we're going to do a little bit of a Q&A because I already stepped up on the stage, maybe a little prematurely, but...
She was nervous.
I was nervous. I still am, but we'll get through it. We don't have a mobile mic, so we'll take a few questions. You're going to have to be real loud. I'll repeat the question, though. So does anybody have any questions for me or Jeremiah? He's up here with me. Anybody? Brett? Okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
There are just so many of them.
Yeah.
There has to be millions.
Yeah.
I've never seen that many in one place. And they're, eating my seedlings and
Yeah. Okay, so the question is, what do you do with an excessive amount of pill bugs, or as we sometimes call them here in the South, roly-polies? I recently actually saw something. I'm actually dealing with a lot of those this year, and it's my first year to have so many that, like, seedlings are coming up, and I'm like, oh, hey, happy birthday, little guy, and the next day they're gone, because they eat them all. But I saw a tip that if you cut potatoes in half and put them all around your plants, they will actually attract those insects, and then they'll be covered in them, and then you can take that and, like, feed it to the chickens or dispose of it. Or just feed them, I guess, if you wanted to, and if they're leaving your seedlings so low. Once the plants are beyond seedlings, roly-polies are actually very beneficial because they actually help break stuff down. They're just a problem when you have seedlings or soft fruits like strawberries. But yeah, potatoes. So, anybody else? Questions? There's a lot of you. There's got to be some questions in your hearts. You've just been waiting. Where is it? All right. Yes. Okay, do I heat my greenhouse in the winter or do I just grow in? It depends on what's in it. I do keep a space heater in it. Ideally, a greenhouse is sealed enough that a small amount of heat will help. But like when I'm starting like brassica seeds or lettuces or things like that, I don't put any extra heat. Where I live, it's very mild. So the worst freeze we're going to deal with is like maybe it might get down to like 20 or 25 degrees. That's very cold for us. And inside the greenhouse, that's fine for anything like lettuces or brassicas. Once I have seedlings started for the spring, tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, all of the warm weather things, I will put a space heater in there to make sure that we keep it, ideally we don't want to dip below like 50, but as long as we keep it above freezing on a cold night, that's enough. So I don't heavily heat it, but just a little supplemental heat. Yes. Oh, that's a great question. How much of our process has changed moving from the Midwest to the South Carolina? Not a lot. We went to a very, very similar growing zone, very similar set of circumstances. Arkansas gets colder in the winter than South Carolina does. South Carolina is more humid in the summer, so we're finding some differences. The soil is obviously kind of different, but for the most part, my processes have pretty well stayed the same, except for the fact that I find the winters to be, I would say, easier. The winters are easier in South Carolina. So the animal husbandry is a lot easier in South Carolina because you're not having to crush water every day. So, yes. Yes. The update on the store and the coffee house. Everybody's asked me this. They're like, how's it going? And I'm... Yeah, no. He said, tell them to go ask Tom at the McMurray Hatchery. Probably don't. No, I've joked with everybody that it's taking twice as long and costing 3 times as much. That is the nature of construction during this time. Right now, we should be roasting coffee in the next 6 to 8 weeks, so we're really close to that. I guess this would be as good a time as any to tell you that Mr. Daniel Smith here is planning on moving over to South Carolina to roast coffee for all you good people. And beyond that, the store, the thing is we're kind of hoping to soft open quietly for our community. Do we do anything quietly? But we're trying to maybe soft open a little bit to work out the kinks and then do a big grand opening event. And we're really aiming for that grand opening event to be next spring is kind of what we're looking at. So, you want to add to that?
Well, I was just going to say this. We might be the only coffee roasting brand that you can get that will have someone sing over the beans before they go out.
So yeah. Another question. All right, back here. I'm having a wonderful time. She asked, how has my last couple of days been? A lot of people have come up to me and said, hey, I know this really isn't your thing. And I want you all to know that anytime that I get to see you and connect with you, and I'm going to cry, we've all cried together, it is my thing. I am very much an introvert. Most of the time that I am doing what I do, I'm talking to a camera alone in my garden. And this is massively overwhelming, I will tell you that, because I see large numbers like 50,000 and 100,000 and 1,000,000 and all of these different numbers on my screen. And those aren't people. That's just a number on the computer. So this is wild. It is definitely amazing, but it's very humbling. And while I definitely leave these things tired, it is a tired that I'm glad to embrace because this is a huge blessing to us. All right, 3 more minutes. Let's do one question, one more. All right, back here.
Have you found a way, or how do you deal with Bermuda grass getting into your
How do I deal with Bermuda? Where's Will Kunkel? Where is he? Is he here somewhere? Will. Bermuda grass we call zombie grass. We accept it as an inevitability of growing where we are. Very heavy mulch is one thing, but there is the truth that in some places rhizomial grasses are extremely difficult to eradicate. So we try to be very mindful when we're planting, to plant things that are going to really cover the ground a lot, to plant things close enough that they're going to cover the ground a lot, to mulch heavily and immediately, and really just trying to stay on top of it. I think if you change your mind from thinking that you're ever going to fully get rid of the Bermuda grass into thinking that you're going to just deal with it, then it's less defeating. I think a lot of people start gardening and they think that the weeds overwhelm them in 2 weeks because they think somehow that they're not going to come. They are, like, and especially with Bermuda grass. It's not going to go away, but a lot of times planting from seed can be really difficult in that situation unless it's something that grows really fast. You really have to mulch. So that's kind of what we're dealing with. I have no idea what I'm going to go home to because I brought Will with me. So we're both here and we're both like, well, when we get back, we'll just see what we've got. And it might be a little bit of a mess, but yeah, we just deal with it. All right, you ready to jump into this? Maya's going to sit up here with me because sometimes my mind goes completely blank and it's nice to have a backup to tag in. So thank you all so much for being here. If for some reason, if you don't know who I am and you just kind of stumbled into this talk, it's nice to meet you. My name is Jess Sowards. My husband, Jeremiah, who you will hear me call Sweet Maya, and I have a farm in the Midlands of South Carolina. We have about 27 acres. We grow a lot of our food. And we have been sharing that journey for several years now on social media. It's been a really wild ride and a really incredible thing. It has changed our life in a massive way that we get to come to things like this and talk about one of our greatest passions with people like you. Today, they called me and they said, hey, Jess, what do you want your talk to be called? And I was like, oh, Lord, I got to name it. I wrote down, 15 lines or so on this paper at 1 o'clock this morning when I woke up out of bed thinking about what I wanted to say. I had told them I needed a PowerPoint, and then I realized I've never made one of those before. Sometimes I have really big notions of how I'm going to do things, and then the reality of who I actually am kind of runs in. So there's no PowerPoint today. If you want to see my farm, we're on YouTube. It's Roots and Refuge. So I want to talk to you about a permaculture life. I find education massively valuable. I am a teacher at heart. I love to teach people. I love to explain things. I have 6 children, and teaching them is my greatest joy and my greatest legacy. But I didn't come here today to really teach you because I have put countless hours into making, I don't even know how many YouTube videos, a lot. I've written books, and we have a website that has a blog. There's lots of information if you want to learn. More valuable, I find, than education is inspiration. Because I have found that people who are passionate are not easily deterred. Okay? There are lots of educated people sitting on what they know and not doing what it is that they either feel led to do or that they know how to do because they have no motivation and they are not inspired. Passion is like a spark. It is like gasoline on a fire. Passion is the greatest gift that I could ever give you. And it is something that I have been intensely gifted with in my life. When I was a little child, I remember this very vivid memory of us pulling the Christmas decorations out of the attic, and I started to cry. I literally started to cry because I was so, and I just was so romantic about it, and I was just crying over every little thing, and my mom was like, Jess, what's going on? And I was like, I just love Christmas. And I remember then, I was probably 4th or 5th grade, I remember realizing no one else was crying. And I was like, what is going on? Because my heart was just so massively wooed. Because that unicorn ornament, I hadn't seen it for a year, and I knew how magical it was all going to be, and I was so wooed. And for a long time, I actually felt a lot of shame about the fact that I lived my life with rose-colored glasses. I would hear the terms like head in the clouds. And even at some points, I would hear terms like too heavenly minded to be any earthly good. Has anybody ever heard somebody say that? What the heck? That's a cruddy thing to say. I have learned to embrace me. I've learned to embrace being heavenly minded and rose-colored glasses and head in the clouds. And I have found by proof, and let me be an example, you can actually do a lot of earthly good with that being the case. So when I have an opportunity to stand up and talk with you guys, I think, what could I teach them? And I could teach you multiple things. I can tell you to put potatoes in to get rid of your pill bugs. And I want to make space to answer those questions because there's value. But more importantly, the thing I want to be able to give you is I would love to be able to spark some inspiration in you, because inspired people will always find the education that they need. Inspired people will find the resources that they need. Inspired people do not easily give up. And if you walk away from here, what I want you to be is inspired. And I would love to give you part of this passion that I feel. So I told them to call my talk the Permaculture Life. And so if you came here to learn how to do silvopastures, Joel Salatin's tent is somewhere up there. He's got a lot of books. So I do love permaculture. Permaculture is amazing. But what I really would love for us to do is I would love for us to engage with permaculture in a holistic way. So when we do something holistically, we don't just try to apply it to a part. You guys, if you are faithful viewers of my channel, you have watched my health changed massively over the last year. I'm getting a lot of notifications on my phone right now of the festival, which was this weekend last year. And at that festival, I was about 45 pounds heavier. If you met me during that festival, I had 101-degree fever. I was on an antibiotic for a killer infection that I'd had for about 3 years. Okay, I left that festival with an awful sunburn because I was photosensitive because of the antibiotic. And I went on to get sicker and sicker until my skin became so ridden with eczema that I actually couldn't get out of bed for the month of October. And it was really wild. And what we did is we stopped and we began to approach my health with a holistic approach and looked at the whole thing and did some drastic changes. And I am now a walking testimony that sometimes you have to stop treating symptoms and you have to get to the root of the issue. Thank you. And so for me, when I look, it's changed the way I look at a lot of things. Now, I have had this rose-colored glasses thing and this whole wooed by the world thing, and I've felt that, but now that has been coupled with realizing maybe I need to change my mind in how I'm looking at everything. So permaculture is interesting, and when I got into homesteading, that was nowhere on my radar. We built our garden. We did like a stationary chicken coop. We put a jillion goats in a really small space. Like, I was not thinking about soil. I was not thinking about grass. I was not thinking about really the impact of a lot of different things. I was wanting to grow food, and hey, if that's how you're doing it, that's great. That's a good place to be. But I think that we can look at good, better, and best, and we can always be pushing towards best and looking at the ways that we can improve. And when I began to learn about permaculture, at first I thought, these people are crazy. Like, permaculture people are very, very intense, and there was like a language I didn't know. So I spent probably 3 years or so kind of like peeking into that world and being like, it was overwhelming. It was too much. So I would just kind of go back to what I was doing, how I was doing it. But it was very obvious that what we were doing had some real drawbacks. Like, we were dealing with a heavy parasite load on our goats because we had too many in a small space. We were dealing with the fact that our pigs were wreaking havoc on the land where they were. We were dealing with the fact that there was obviously an imbalance in some relationships with the animals, the garden, the farm, and us in it. And so when I returned to permaculture, really after moving to South Carolina and really dove into learning about it, I learned something that kind of simplified it for me. And that's really what I wanted to bring to you today, because I think it is inspiring. I think it can make us better people all around. And I learned that permaculture is simply the study of the relationship of all things. And that changed everything for me. It's just studying the relationship of all things. So I don't know how to preach with or speak with a microphone on a stage without preaching. I joke that, like, my history is in charismatic preaching, so I like a little response from my audience. That's just what I'm used to. But I'm a Christian, if you didn't know that. If you've been around for a little while, you know probably that I am. Thank you. I also want to make crystal clear, like, I don't need you to be to like you. I actually love people tremendously, but when I speak about things, I use a lot of scriptures and use a lot of these things because that's the lens that I have. It's the understanding that I have, because I've known God since I was 8 years old, and the Holy Spirit's just been with me through this whole thing. And when I learned that permaculture is the study of the relationship of all things, the aha moment for me was that God loves relationship. You know? In fact, I took it all the way back, and when I think about permaculture, I think about Genesis and the fact that God created everything, and he said it is good, okay? The only thing, in fact, that he said was not good was for man to be alone. And so what he did was he took woman out of man and made them separate, and therefore demanded relationship for the continuation of humanity. That's what God has to say about relationship. That's a big statement. So that tells me that when he looked at everything else other than the singularity of humanity in one form, relationship was already there. Okay, so everything else, there is existing perfect relationship. As perfect as it is for a man and a woman to be able to continue with creating a life. Relationship is required. And so when I thought, wow, permaculture is the study of the relationship of all things, all we have to do is find out what this healthy relationship looks like and support it, because we know that we've been given stewardship of the earth. Now, for too long, humanity has approached the relationship with the earth with a very toxic approach, as if the world and everything in it was created to serve us. And that's actually not what was stated in the beginning. We were given stewardship over it, but it was not created to be exploited by us. It was not created to be enslaved to us. In fact, whenever we were given stewardship over it, that makes us responsible for it. I've been given stewardship over my children. It's not my children's job to be enslaved to me. Now, don't get me wrong. I expect their contribution, and I respect them for it. But they're not my slaves, and neither is the earth, because I have been given stewardship of the earth. I have been given dominion of the earth. And so I am responsible for how I treat the earth. But I look at modern agricultural practices and I think, well, this is certainly not built with the assumption that it's all good. Like pig's root, right? So when we put pigs on concrete, we think that the fact that pig's root is not good. We look at all of these different parts of creation and the way that modern agriculture is handling them, simply, however that has developed to the place that it is. And it is definitely not the assumption that things are all good. And that is what I want to get back to, and the thing that we've been trying to do. And that's why we have ducks in the pasture, in the orchard area. We've heavily spaced out trees in an orchard area around a pond, because we're thinking here we use the pigs to prepare this space, because pigs root, and then we move them off. And we bring the ducks in that are going to help with the pest control. And the orchard's going to grow, and we're looking at how every single thing is engaging in this relationship. So this is the thing about what I'm talking about. It's all good. It's relationship. What these are is mindsets. So I'm going to use some language that might be new to you in talking about mindsets. Maybe some of you have heard that a lot. But mindsets are everything. So I want you to imagine right now that you have a tool belt around your waist. Maybe you came this weekend and you got a new tool. You heard something, you heard a phrase, or you learned a bit of information, and it was like a tool being dropped in that tool belt. Now, you can build a lot of things with a couple of tools. But whenever you get into really building stuff, a craftsman is going to have their favorite tools. They're going to have a tool that changed everything for them. They're going to have a tool that they said, before I had this tool, this was so hard, but this made it easier. And really, whenever we're offered new mindsets and we're the opportunity to have new mindsets, we're being offered with tools that can make us in the creation of our lives easier. Okay, it's hard because it's hard to accept new mindsets, isn't it? It's really hard to think, oh, I've never heard that before, so it must be wrong. That's why I closed the door on permaculture for 3 years, because it was all new language to me. And I thought, that's confusing, so I shut the door on it. But as soon as I got that one piece, it's simply the study of the relationship of all things. What it did was it just was that tool, and it opened up, and it made it easier for me to understand. So today I want to talk to you about some permaculture mindsets that I think could benefit you. And ultimately, because it's all relationship, the principles that you apply to caring for your farm and your garden can also be applied to how you engage in your marriage and how you engage with your children. You might not think that, but can't you see that? Like that if I view myself as a reciprocal person in a relationship with my garden, and I respect it, and I come to my children and I view it as a responsibility and an honor, but a reciprocal relationship that I respect. If I come to my husband and it's a reciprocal relationship and I respect him and I honor him, but also I need him and I lean on him and I am aware of the impact of my place in this relationship, it's better. And unfortunately, we live in a very, 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 very self-centered world. We're completely inundated with advertising and opportunities for convenience and things that ultimately come at the cost of our health. And we're no longer thinking of our impact. But with the mindset of relationship, it simplifies so many things. What's your relationship with food? That takes away the temptation of all of the sweets at the cash register most of the time. It takes away the pull of the fact that you're gonna pass 25 billboards with fast food whenever you're just trying to go about your errands. It's no longer a thing. It's just a relationship. Is that the kind of relationship that you want to be in? A big thing when you start looking at the world and farming through the mindset of personal relationship is you just have to take responsibility and you have to be aware of your impact, both how you are impacting the relationship and how the relationship is impacting you. So I want you to think about the garden, okay? One of the reasons I'm so big on telling people just get started on the garden. Who in here has the garden changed your life? Wow, look at that. That works. In the relationship with the garden, humanity and the garden have a really great track record. It changes our life. It feeds us. It's beautiful. It gives us peace and respite. It's work. Work is so good for us. It makes us stronger. It forces us to be patient. But what does the garden need from you in the relationship? Does it need you to feed the soil? Does it need you to be mindful of covering the earth and mulching? It has needs. Are you meeting them? Because in this relationship, if all I ever did was come and receive, but I didn't reciprocate the meeting of needs, if I was not aware of my impact to this relationship, it would fall apart. And so does the earth when we approach it that way. We have to be mindful of how we are coming in relationship. And I want you guys, if you take nothing else from me, I want you to think of growing food, the homesteading lifestyle, gardening, animal husbandry, and living more mindfully, that you are a part of the relationship of all things. And that on my farm at any given time, I can think, wow, the sun shines on the farm, the grass grows, it rains. The cows eat the grass, the cows grow. They leave manure and urine, which feeds the microbiome, which then encourages the grass to grow. This sequesters carbon. All of these things are in perfect relationship when left alone by us. So if we are going to enter into that relationship, we must be aware of our impact. Thank you. Further on the idea that everything is good. I can't argue with that. I don't know if you've tried to argue with biblical truth, but it's really rough. Like, it doesn't go great. I can't argue with the fact that God said everything is good. I think the fact that the pig's root is good. I think the fact that cows produce 50 pounds of manure a day is good. I don't mind the fact that they need 100 pounds of grass. I've got that. They are feeding it with the manure. And in balanced relationship, we don't have to call things bad. It's whenever we are ignorant to our impact that we start seeing imbalance, and we want to make it their problem instead of our problem. We want to make the badness about them rather than about how we're approaching it. So if we look at everything as good, there's a permaculture principle which is talking about energy and resources. And I want you to think about your piece of property, your farm, your homestead, a small farm, whatever it is. And some of you are in your classroom, and I'm so glad. I hope you carry this with you. You don't have to make the mistakes we made by putting 20 goats in a really small space and watching them die from parasites. So, I want you to take this and apply it now or hold on to it for later. But if everything is good, I could sit back and survey the resources that I actively had. The rain that falls on my property is a resource. The health in the soil is a resource. The grass I have growing in the resource. The sunshine is a resource. Also, the shade is a resource. The trees are a resource. The leaves that fall from the trees are a resource. Every living creature on my farm and what it produces is a resource. I am a resource. He is a resource. Our workforce is a resource. Anyone who comes in and lays hands to my farm is a resource. All of these things must be considered, and all of them must be called good. Okay? We had an issue when we first came in. We had some Cornish cross chicks. And we put them in an electric net under a big oak tree because it was pretty hot, and we thought they might appreciate the shade. And a hawk appreciated that tree because he could light on the branch and just help himself to the chicken buffet that was underneath. And we lost about 8 of them before we realized what was going on. And we, a lot of times people then go, the hawk is bad, right? But the hawk can't be bad because God said everything is good, okay? So what we did is we moved the electric netting out into open pasture, and we've never lost another bird to an aerial predator because they won't swoop down in the electric nets in open pasture. And now I don't have to deal. I see the hawk. It lives in the tree across the pond, and it nests there. We have this hawk that lives on our property, and some people have seen it, and they go, oh, you have a hawk. Does it kill your chickens? Even we had a neighbor that stopped by once and said, you can't keep chickens here. The hawks just eat them up. But, the hawks on my property eat the voles. And so I get chickens and sweet potatoes, which is nice. So I have to acknowledge the fact that in Genesis, God did not say, it's all good except for man to be alone and hawks. We can't say that. So a lot of times there are going to be things, and I will tell you that I've shared certain things like having a very severe allergy to ants and chasing them around the garden and eventually putting boric acid out that reduces the ant population. And I do use organic pest controls, but I use them very sparingly. And I'm not trying to make this a black and white thing that says never, ever, ever have to deal with a pest issue. You're probably going to have to deal with a pest issue as you work out the balance on your property. But I'm saying never, ever, ever deal with a pest issue without acknowledging that it's all good. Because there has to be balance in these things. So when we look at the resources that come on our property, it changes the way we use them. So we recently, if you've watched any recent videos, Will and I put in an in-ground garden because we didn't have enough gardening space to come home from this festival and weed as it was. So we put in this big in-ground gardening space. Will was very, he was going to make it smaller. And I said, let's make it bigger. And he said, okay, sister, because that's what Will says to me. So we made it bigger. It's really big, but we actually went out and we did... We found the contour of this area, and we actually made this on contour, and I was able to show in a video recently what happened when it rained. Because the rain is a resource, and that's my rain. As long as it's on my property, I get to benefit from that rain, if I could call it mine. But I get to benefit from that rain. It is affecting what I have stewardship of when it lands on that 26.5 acres that I get to call my property to care for. But what happens is groundwater, I mean, it flows away. And then it goes down in the ditch, and then it moves down. And then it's in someone else's property. And so if I view that rain as my resource that I get to benefit from for the period of time that it's on my land, what do you want to do? Slow it down. Allow it to sit there a little longer, get soaked up a little bit longer. So we planted our rows on contour, and we mounded them up, and now when it rains, they fill up with water, and it sits there for almost 24 hours when it's like 90 degrees outside. And those rows are staying highly saturated, and so 2 days after the rain, I don't have to go water that garden because it's still very wet. Because we're viewing everything as a resource that's good, and that's such a simple thing to be able to do, to put an in-ground garden on contour, to be able to hang on to those resources. And that's what permaculture is when we're studying the relationship of all things, and we're acknowledging that every single part of it has value and was called good by the creator of everything. Then we're saying, well, how as stewards can we benefit from these things? So... hold on, I've got to look at my notes here. So the next thing that I want to talk to you about mindset-wise is the mindset of abundance. Actually, we're going to come back to that one because I've got a lot to say about that, and I'd like to finish with it. Okay, next mindset, not the abundance one. This one's way less fun to talk about, but it's very important. The thing that I've come to really appreciate, and permaculture very much validates, is I think that we need to change our mind regarding death. Man, that's a hard topic to talk about, isn't it? Because death is really hard, right? Death is hard to deal with. But if you're going to have a farm, you're going to deal with death. If you are going to raise your own food, you're going to deal with death. Because something has to die for you to live. And I understand there is an argument, and I've had multiple people, and I was vegan for quite a while, I was vegetarian for quite a while, because I could not handle death. Death was bad to me. And I then learned how many things die in the process of monoculture to make soy and corn and rice. I learned that lots of animals get killed in the process of that. And that the idea that I was escaping somehow the truth that something has to die for me to live was my ignorance. Something has to die for us to live. If that's not the gospel incarnate in the way the world is, I don't know what else is. Something has to die for us to live. Now, we live in a culture that has made death a horror show. We live in a culture that has maximized the fear that could surround death. We have taken our old people and our sick people and we have locked them away. We no longer live with them. We've taken people who are wasting away and we have separated them from society. We have taken people who are disabled and what we would call different, and we've taken them, we've put them in different classrooms. I understand sometimes that's to meet needs, but there is a lack of normalcy around death. And unfortunately, in my position, I get to talk to a lot of people who maybe have an idea of growing food, and the number one thing I hear with disgusted tones from people who watch us is, how could you care for an animal and kill it? Many of which are people who actively eat meat. And the truth is nobody's gleeful on butchering day. I don't even like harvesting the onions because I'm not going to see them growing there anymore. Nobody's happy to kill things. If they are, that's a different issue. We don't have enough time to talk about it. But for the most part, normal people are not happy about killing things. It's a gravity. It's an acknowledgement of the cost of our life. Something has to die for us to live. Why do you think Jesus told us in communion, when you eat, think of me? Something has to die for us to live, and taking the responsibility of that cost is part of permaculture. It is part of living aware of my impact and the relationship of all things. If I try to minimize the cost that something is dying for me to live, I am not owning my impact. And I think ultimately that lack of awareness is what has led, along with greed, to a lot of the modern agricultural practices that are ruining the earth and our health. But why are we so scared of death? Because we're so separate from it? Because we open our phone every day and see a shooting where 15 people got killed? Because we see horror shows from when we're little kids and movies where someone gruesomely dies? People weren't wired for that kind of stuff. We're all walking around with some measure of trauma because God made us for a garden, not a battlefield, but we live on one. And what we have to do in awareness and impact and understanding is to stop and say, why is my mindset towards death as if it is so absolutely negative? You want good soil, something's going to have to die. You want a healthy garden, something's going to have to die. My health today is what it is versus what it is a year ago because I went on a carnivore diet. That means you just eat meat. Way more animals had to die for that. I mean, truly, it was like, whoa, this is really different. And it has wrecked my mindsets. But the thing that ultimately really bothered me is we don't want to admit that something has to die for us to live. We feel guilty and shame whenever we acknowledge that. That feels bad. We're scared of death. And the thing that permaculture has taught me is that this is part of the human process. Could we look in the eyes of dying people and not feel uncomfortable and not feel like we need to fix it? Can we? I mean, that's a question you have to ask yourself. I know I've dealt with a lot of discomfort when it comes to that. And it's beautiful. And Leah, I'm sorry to put you on the spot like this, but I remember this picture that your dad posted of your mom as she was passing away, and he said, it has been my great honor to usher his wife into death as she was very sick. And I thought, it hit me. It was part of what really hit me on this, that I thought, why have we become so horrified and disconnected from this part of humanity that we would celebrate the beginning, but we would not celebrate the end? And then it made me go, whoa, this is why we want to walk in grocery stores and buy food in plastic with no blemishes. This is why we want our meat packaged with a price tag instead of a face. Because it makes us feel better about the truth that something has to die for us to live. But as soon as you make your peace with that, all of a sudden the natural process of a farm is death is why it works. And that's beautiful. That is the gospel. We're here because death is why it works. Now, abundance. I switched them because I wanted to end on a positive note. Jeremiah said, good call. Abundance. I don't know where you are in your journey in homesteading. Mine started after a lifetime of lack. I grew up in a world where there was never enough. When I started gardening, there was never enough. I built my first garden on $1,000 that a stranger handed me one day, then said, God told me to give this to you. Isn't that wild? And it was my first garden tour video that took off and put us on the map as far as YouTube was concerned. And that was the beginning of my mindset being challenged that we were created at all to live in a world of lack. And I've come to understand in permaculture that when everything becomes good and everything becomes a resource, and this is a natural process that works, and death has lost its sting, I don't have to worry about this working. I like to tell people seeds want to grow. This isn't rocket science. I was at a thing early on when I was kind of first getting started in social media and being called, what they call an influencer. And there's not really there's not a rule book for influencers, just so you know. If you're on the other side of this, I'll just let you in. There's not a rule book. Nobody knows what they're doing with influencers. Like, well, we don't even know what we're doing. I don't even know. I'm just like, what? I'll mess up sometimes and I'll share something someone wasn't prepared for, and they call me and they're like, hey, next time a heads up, I'm canceling my vacation to ship orders. And I'm like, oh, sorry. We don't know what we're doing. So I'd gotten invited to this thing, and I didn't know what it was at the time because I don't know what I'm doing. And so I was invited, and it was like this really big nationwide brand brought out people in the gardening sphere that were important people. And those were people like editors and, influencers and people who'd written lots of books and experts. And here I am, fresh out of Arkansas, been gardening for a handful of years, 1.5 years into YouTube. My channel grew really fast. Not an expert at all. And I get invited down here, and I'm in this. I realized once I got there, my cousin Amy went with me, and I didn't know it was a schmoozing. I got there, they were giving us lots of expensive food, and they're like, here's all these things. And I did not know what was going on until about 24 hours in, and then I was like, oh, they're wanting me to sell their stuff. I had no clue. I actually thought we were going to, learn something about gardening. I was like, oh, this is nice of them, No clue, oblivious. And while I'm there, we're at this very fancy restaurant. It's probably the fanciest restaurant I'd ever eaten at. And there's all these fancy people, and I'm feeling not fancy. And this woman goes, how did you get a platform? She said this. It was very rude, but I actually am oblivious enough that I respond very well to rude people, so I don't realize they're being rude. And so she said, how did you get a platform? She said, are you a master gardener? I said, oh, no. She goes, what's your education? And I was like, oh, I didn't graduate high school. And she was just like, oh, well, what got you here? And I said, I don't know. I think people were just really tired of experts acting like gardening's hard. And that's what we've built this platform on. It just works. It's a process that works. Seeds want to grow. I like to tell people we throw the scraps of the garden out into the pig yard, grows food every year. My kids, they say it's foraging. They do bushcraft in the fall. They're not foraging. They're eating the stuff that grew in the pig's poop. It's like melons. It's melons. It's, cucumbers. It's all growing out there. What'd you say, zucchinis? It's mostly clean. Yeah, it's fine. They've got strong immune systems. So they're out there. They're breaking the melons open, eating them with their hand. And they tell their friends, my mom lets me go stay in the woods and forage for my food. And I'm like, whatever. What Justin say earlier, truth messes up a good story. Just let them have it. It's fine. They're making strong childhood memories. So yeah, they do that because the stuff grows in the pig's poop. And if pigs can grow a garden with their poop, I'm sure that you can do it trying. It's a process that was created. It's been working long before any of us lived. And it's going to keep working long after we die, and that's okay. It's a beautiful process. And in that, when we come to understand that, we realize how quickly we can obtain abundance by simply seeing everything as a resource and everything that something is good. The greatest resource that I could point you to right now to unlock abundance and this truth in your life is the resource of community. Right now, we're under this tent with a lot of people. I know there's a lot of body heat going on top of the other regular heat. But this is amazing. Look at all of these people. Look around. This is enough people to radically change the world, given a couple of generations. Just this tent worth. Never mind the whole conference, never mind the whole audience, never mind all of us around. In 2019, I noticed the tide had really started to turn on homesteading. In 2020, it was like gasoline being thrown on a small fire and became a massive explosion. People are aware that they need to grow their own food. And now some people are there's been some that have fallen away. I've heard people be like, those people came and they got all the resources and they left. No, it's all a resource. Lack will steal everything from you. The idea that there's not enough will rob you from community. It'll rob you from trying. It'll rob you from being generous. It'll rob you from being brave. But if you live convinced that it is all good and that there is enough and that death has lost its sting, you will engage in relationship bravely, not afraid to look at your own impact. You will be aware of how you engage with your spouse, with your children. That's your legacy. I don't care what business you run. I don't care what job you have, what thing you create. Your legacy is in the people that you engage with. And I really think that if we could wrap our mind around these mindsets and we could just let these tools fall firmly in our belt and get our hand around them and get comfortable with them, we would be so much better. We would handle the earth better, and we would handle each other better. And given that, what would happen? Because it wasn't created messed up. Families were not created to be broken. The world was not created to be in the state that it's in. And I, for one, when I hear people say the world's going to hell in a handbasket, I say, well, not because of me. Right here. This is the part that I have control over. And I'm going to start with being aware with how I engage in relationship. Bravely. Because that's what permaculture taught me.
Kind of said everything you needed to say. You can't sit down. I didn't prepare any notes, so she said she had it. I said, an hour and a half? She said, yeah. I was like, okay. It has not been an hour and a half. Yeah, I'm good. I'm messing with you. It's okay. Relax. I don't know, just sitting in. Go ahead. I'll try. I got you. I want to know what I'm doing. Shoot, sometimes I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, so May was just a really busy month. Not a bad busy. Went to Vegas, watched my daughter graduate, cried more than I thought. That was a big deal. Really will make you feel old, but it's a big deal. She's stepping into adulthood, and it was just, she really honored us, and that, it's her space, it's her friends. It was just a great trip, but mix that in with 2 birthdays and Mother's Day and here, and, there's 3 days in between each trip, and that's not enough time to shoot a video, edit it, post it. Jessica's honestly, she's a magician. She's literally she will shoot on these kinds of months. She'll shoot 3 videos, 4 videos in a day. and edit and schedule them out so that way she can travel while still putting out content to have the impact that it has. I'm just not that good. So yeah, she's, like I said, yeah, I'll get there one day. So when I get back from this trip, I'm not traveling as much going forward, so I plan to, get some more content coming out. I'll have some time to actually do something other than feel stressed out. It's been great, though. This has been a great conference. I did not come last year. I came this year because Jessica said that Rory put on probably her favorite conference that she's ever been to. And I have to say that this has been a fantastic experience. You guys have made it so amazing. So yes, I will get to the content. One of the things that I guess kind of came to me while she was talking was about that relationship with all things, and she's referenced me and referenced our kids, and I really just kind of felt like led to touch on some stuff about your kids. Now, if you don't have kids, that's okay. You can apply this to other relationships, but I think it's important, and it's talking about that perception, right? So, how many of you have a memory about a conversation you had with your parents, right? And then you become like an adult where you're conscious of that, and then you go to talk about it, right? And you share your perception and your story, and they're like, that's not what happened. That has happened, correct? Like, oh no, that was horrible. And she's like, that's not what happened. I'm like, Mom, I don't know where you were, but this is exactly what happened, right? Well, that got me thinking for a while about, okay, well, now I had to slow down with how I am addressing my kids, the tone of voice I'm taking, because the reality is that their memory is not going to be yours. How they're experiencing you actually matters, especially as parents. And you will be setting your kids up for failure by not acknowledging that, right? And being aware of it. It's being aware of how you're impacting it. Because I had all these memories and all these experiences with my parents, and when I went to go, talk about it, heal from it, work out the trauma, have a conversation, which is really what you're supposed to do to heal from trauma. You just face it and have a conversation about it. Time doesn't always work. But in that, I realized, okay, she had a completely different perception. Her view of how that went was completely different than mine. And I can't do anything about that now, but what I can do is change how I'm now interacting with my relationships and how they're experiencing me. Okay? I've been through a lot in my life. I've been on lots of medications. I've been a different person. Chronic pain will change a person. They will completely become different. Right? When I was in that season of life, I wasn't a very nice person. Right? And can't go back and change it, but I can learn from it and move on. And so being aware of how you are interacting with the rest of the world and how they are perceiving you matters. That whole perception, or that whole idea, I guess, that mindset of, I don't care how people are experiencing me. That's just a self-protective mechanism, so you don't have to feel that. But especially men, we've really got to address that and be concerned with how people are perceiving you. I'm very confident because I'm married to Jessica and she's awesome. I walk in that confidence, I carry myself confidently. You know what I'm saying? But I can come across very bold, but that's not actually who I am. That's not what I'm trying to do. I walk confidently, but I'm not a steamroller. You know what I'm saying? I'm not just going to shove you, put your opinion on the back burner and not listen to what you have to say. I used to when I was younger. And again, time will help you mature and learn this stuff. But giving people space, actually listening. How many times have you gotten into a conversation with people who just haven't learned this yet, and they're really just listening for the point and where you break your speech, where then they can contribute their experience or something like that? That's actually not listening, right? So we've got to learn how to listen to people. We've got to learn how to listen to our kids, even if something that they're saying is ridiculous. And trust me, it's ridiculous a lot. I'm talking wake up, take them to the lake, go get food, take them shopping, go buy toys, go do this, go watch a brand new movie, get out. We're on our way home. They're barely able to stay awake. Guys, when we get home, can we play video games? No, guys, we're going to go to bed. This is the worst day ever. This is so bad. I'm twitching in the front seat. And I'm Jessica, handle your children. Okay? But I'm just saying, how do you respond in that moment? The whole day was completely intentional for them, focused on them. And then sometimes kids, their perception is just completely ridiculous. How do you going to respond, right? I'm not saying it's perfect. Yes, there are things that we've had to edit out of videos when I'm like, stop it right now. Okay, that's reality. That's true, all right? But be aware of it. So that way maybe the next time you handle it different. Okay, it's okay to tap out and call in your significant other and say, okay, actually, you know what? I can't handle this. I don't want to traumatize my kids. Yeah, I don't want to. No, seriously. Trauma can happen through parenting more than you think. It's so much easier than we actually realize, because like that whole abundance thing, but abundance is a mindset. Okay, let me explain how I came to this realization. Like, I did not know I was poor growing up. I grew up very poor. I thought that everybody had metal showing on their tires, and that was normal. No, I'm serious. Like, I knew how to change a tire when I was 7. I was like, oh, look, the metal tire rolled out. I got to put another one with metal on it. Like, I didn't know what tread was. Like, I'm dead serious. But I never considered myself, underprivileged, poor. Like, that was never my perception. It wasn't until someone made fun of me in elementary school or whatever, you know what I'm saying, made fun of my mom and what she was wearing or whatever. That's when that mindset changed. It's when I listened to what someone else said, really out of their own insecurities, and then you realize, oh, that's because abundance is a mindset. So, like, just because someone has a nice truck or, that's not what we're saying is abundance. Having nice stuff is not abundance. I'm not saying I don't like nice stuff. Jessica really likes nice dresses. That's okay. You should have heard Ben when he found out how much some of Jessica's dresses cost. He was like, what? For one dress? But I mean, but that's fine. It's okay to have that stuff. But I'm saying that's not abundance. Abundance is the mindset of stewarding what you have been given. Right? What do you have? What is yours to steward? Steward that well, then you get more. That's a principle, and it does not matter if you believe in God the way we do or anything. There are certain principles that honestly you don't get a choice. Gravity. Believe in God, don't believe in God. See what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter. It's a principle that continues. Generosity and being blessed because of being generous, it's a principle. Like, it's just it operates whether you operate with acknowledging or not. Like, there are certain things we don't get to choose. Sun goes up, sun goes down. Like, all that stuff, the oceans, the tides, the wind, the storms, like, it's all operating whether if I stood right here and was like, the sun's not coming up tomorrow and I'm just going to scream and the sun's going to keep coming up and going down and moving forward. Apply that understanding to the fact that, like, there are certain principles like generosity and being a good person and being content with what you have and stewarding what's been given to you that brings access to things and brings things into your life that you could not access otherwise. Okay, that's just my experience. Like, experiential knowledge is probably the greatest knowledge, I say, because, like, again, I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole. Flat earthers, round earthers, whatever. Like, it doesn't really matter. We're all on the earth. Let's take care of it, right? Okay, but I'm just saying, like, if somebody went into space, right, and then they looked back in a spaceship, if that's a real thing, I don't know. You look back at the earth, and it's round, right? And then you come back to earth, right? And then you're standing there. You've experienced it. You saw it. It's round. It's a sphere, whatever the detail is. And then someone comes to you and they said, no, it's not. It's square. It's flat. It's whatever. Are they ever going to convince you that it's not? When you saw it with your own eyes, you experienced it. No, you're not going to change your experiences based off of an argument, right? Because it's your experience. So experiential knowledge is so powerful, right? And so how other people are experiencing you is very powerful, and it's very important. You got anything else? Because I'm running out. You're so good.
You did. That was nice, Maya. That was good.
That's with no preparation.
That was nice. I'm really impressed.
Flying by the hip.
Maya is my homeboy too. So truly, I do think that is valuable to talk about experiential knowledge. I think that's why, as homesteaders, so many of us could change the world by simply walking in our conviction that this is a lifestyle that is worthy of leading. A lot of times we think that we need to make an argument for something, but we really just need to be convinced enough in ourselves to actually live by it. And that in itself, you can preach such a better word with your life rather than with your words. And I think that truly allowing other people to experience the value of this lifestyle and the value of living a whole life and a healthy life, let them experience that because they see it with you. I feel like one of the greatest gifts I've been given in our public platform is I love teaching people how to garden. I really love the garden. I'm very excited about it. But beyond that, being able to show people and allow them to experience what a healthy family can look like. Showing people that, and we're not perfect. I talk about the wholeness of family. We're both divorced. We got divorced when we were very young. We've been married now for 13 years, very happily. But allowing to show people, hey, look, second chances actually work. Grace is real, and choice is strong. And just because things have been broken in the past doesn't mean they have to remain broken for the rest of your life. Your name is not broken. And so allowing your life to become an example. You want to know, if you go through a permaculture course, the whole thing to become certified, to be able to teach other people how to do it, is you have to have your example. You have to have your lot or your plot, and you have to actually permaculture a plot. You have to come up with a working plan on a place, or you are not certified to teach other people. Let your life be the example of the principles you believe in. It is, whether you realize it or not. You are living your convictions out loud for people to see. You can say one thing, but people will look at your life and understand what you actually believe in. The way that you interact with people, the way you care for the earth, the way you care for your body, the way you care for your family, taking responsibility for your impact, as Jeremiah was saying. You could be the experiential knowledge that allows someone else to know that they don't have to stay broken. So I think we probably are going to go into a Q&A because I don't have anything else to say. Do you want to?
I kind of comes back to what she was talking about as far as community and how the community we have here. I mean, being willing to open up your home and your life to other people is risky. Like, that's the reality. That's why we don't do it. Why do we not have really deep relationships? Okay, that's why people don't do it. We do it. Actually, some of our communities here right now, we've got some families over here that have been to our farm, come get milk from us every week, have come to our butchering, and they're a part of our community. They're our friends and they're our family. But I'm saying, that's risky, though, right? Because what can people do? Make mistakes. What do mistakes cause? Pain, hurt, right? And it's confusion. It's risky. The thing is that it's worth the risk, right? It's always worth the risk. Because here's what I believe. And I try to govern myself and my relationships based on this. Conflict is required to actually have depth. Okay? If you always have shallow relationships, it's because anytime that there's a conflict coming up, you turn away from it. All right? For us to really have depth, you've got to do something messed up. And I know you've never done anything to me. I think you look great and you seem really nice. But if we have conflict, right? And I say, you know what? I'm not willing to deal with that. Now, sometimes you have to step away from relationships. I'm not saying that that's not the case. But you always have a choice. Either we can work this out, and what happens when we resolve that? You feel closer. You descend. All right? Now, maybe you're good for a while. Then they do something else, or maybe you do something. Right? Are you going to resolve it, or are you going to duck out? Resolve it, you have an opportunity. There's more depth. Right? To have that opportunity, you have to bring people into your circle. Okay, I know people have hurt people. I know everybody in this room, if I asked, would raise their hand. I've been burned by somebody. I've been hurt by somebody. People hurt people. What was that shirt say? I used to be a people person, then people ruined it. I get it. But we can't give up on it. You know what I'm saying? You will find your people. Even if, every relationship that you open yourself up to doesn't work out, they don't honor you, they don't choose the depth. Because here's the thing. Let's say I'm willing to work it out. You're not. Well, I can't change that. I cannot force you. I cannot manipulate you. That's not true relationship. So you have to choose, and I have to choose to resolve and go deeper. All right? So I'm encouraging you, we have talking about one of our next podcasts that we're going to do together is going to be talking about the art of hosting, right? And hosting well. We have perfected, by choice, the art of hosting. If you were at one of the Abundance Plus events where we hosted you at our farm, I hope that your experience is that we were good at hosting, right? Because we try and we have perfected and are continuing to perfect the art of bringing people into your space and making them have an experience and a feeling that they then take away from and feel inspired to do the same. And so I encourage you guys, get out there, put yourselves out there, risk it, okay? Go deep with people. Be vulnerable. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to add to that. And I know we're kind of ping-ponging here, but I hope it's good.
Good job.
All of this comes down to vulnerability and being willing to engage. It's very scary to take responsibility for your impact in relationships. It is, and it might bring up some very deep feelings of shame. It might bring up some really negative stuff. But how in the world could we hope to care about what's happening in the soil in the greater world when there's not even peace under our roof? You know, how in the world are we actually going to apply our energy? It's hard sometimes. Like, I will tell you, like, permaculture, organic gardening, doing things in a way that I feel like is superior in the long run and for the better part of the relationships involved. I always tell people, if you've been gardening conventionally, you've been putting a lot of poisons, you've been putting a lot of stuff on, and you decide, I'm done, I want to do organic, buckle down, baby. It's going to be a hard few years. It really is. You have to build soil health. You have to build an ecosystem. You have to look at it as a long-term thing. One of the biggest things that we have to face when we are entering in relationship with each other in the earth is our fear of failure, our fear of not being enough. What are we afraid of? You're afraid that if your garden fails, your needs aren't going to be met. You're afraid you will have wasted your time. That's why I say, put a chair in the garden, meet with God there. Let the garden have other value to you rather than food. If you engage in healthy relationship and refuse to give up, eventually you will live in abundance. But there may be times that it does not feel like abundance. Our marriage has had times that it did not feel good. I mean, truly, there have been times that it didn't feel like abundance. And we've come to a place now that it does feel like abundance. And we might have to work through hard seasons and factors in the future. But there's this strong choice. Can you choose your food sourcing? Can you choose the better way? Can you marry it? Can you? Can you choose the relationships with your friends and your family, your children, your neighbors? Relationship is the riskiest thing you will do. And here I am telling you, permaculture is all about relationship. Relationship is the riskiest thing you will ever do. You could be a thrill seeker that loves skydiving and jumping off cliffs and all manner of crazy things. I don't know. I'm not that person. I don't even like jet or skiing. I don't want to do that. So I don't take risks, but I love relationship because I love the fruit of it. I love the garden because I love the fruit of it. I love the pride of a plate on the table that I know that we grew it. I love the fact that my kids like me. Not all the time, by no means. But they reach for me because they know I'm there. They know I choose them, and even when they don't like me, I choose them enough for the both of us. The security that comes when you are willing to be vulnerable in relationship will make your life so abundant. And right now you have communities, and I keep getting... Our friends that are here from South Carolina. Like, we just fell into this community that's so good, and there's this choice of relationship. I know that it's hard. I really, really know that it's hard. I could tell you some stories. I have been through some really hard relationship things, deeply disappointed and hurt from relationships. And there have been times, I remember telling Jeremiah, driving down the road once crying, and I said, I'm not going to have friends anymore. We done with the friends thing. You're enough for me. And you want to know what? Had I decided that for sure, it would have broken us because we need each other. We need relationships. And we have to learn how to engage and take responsibility for our impact with each other. Because if we communicate to each other, if we actually listen to another person's perspective and give value to it, then we don't have to hear the soil talking to know I'm not treating this well. I'm taking and not giving because we're actually sensitive to our impact. And I would love for you to take that. I would love for you, more than anything, when I talk to you guys, I don't want to leave you with lots of answers. I would love to leave you with lots and lots of questions because I don't know what the answers are for you. But I hope that you will be brave enough to stop and really look at those questions. And I want to stop, and I always have to give an affirmation sandwich because I'm a words of affirmation person. And so I want you all to know that I think you are doing a fantastic job. I am so thankful that you are here. I am immensely proud of each and every one of you. If nobody has told you, your efforts to grow your food and love your family are world-changing. They are valuable. Each one of you. Your care and concern for the little things. The delight that you take for the bees in your garden and the way that you've looked on all these people and it's filled your heart and you have felt encouraged by this. All of this is because there is something in you that honors that it's all good. And you encourage me vastly. People say, is this hard for you to come to these things? And while like I said in the beginning, yes, but it encourages me and it makes me know that it doesn't matter how bad things look. It's all good. And there is so much hope.
Very good. You feel that being conveyed from so many people as we've stood here at the Murray McMurray Carolina Homestead Exchange booth and met you and shook your hand, spent time with you. I heard it so many times, like, I feel like we would be best friends. Why do you feel like that? You get that feeling through a camera and a computer or a phone because Jessica she has chosen to be vulnerable in those moments that produces that outward, right? And if Jessica had the capacity to be best friends with all of you, she would. There's not enough seconds in the day for us to all go get coffee or be that jittery afterwards. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's not possible, right? We all know we know that it's not real that Jessica could be best friends with all of you, all right? We would love to, right? But what we can do now is you can watch the example, and now you can be Jessica, right, in your community. Be the person that's going to let people in, take them to coffee, invite them to your house. Like, that's what this is for. It's an impartation. Like, oh, okay, I see it modeled. Okay, now I'm not going to be, don't shift your mindset out of, I want to be best friends with Jessica, because, we know it's not realistic. Like, I'm best friends with Jessica. Like, get in line. I'm very jealous of my time, all right? But you could be best friends with everyone around you. Sit down, Amy. Your second friend. Sit. Simmer down. Do we get what I'm saying, right? Like, you go be that person. You embody that vulnerability, smile, laugh, enjoy what you're doing. Don't complain. Like, hard work is good. Love you, best friend.
I love you all. Yeah, let's answer some questions because I'm not trying to cry and sweat this much. Yeah, can we answer? Yeah, right here.
So I hate when someone makes a statement, but I'd love to see a raise of hands because we're from Wisconsin and we came here to your channel.
Okay.
You have inspired us to start gardening, so you've made it approachable. So how many people has Jess inspired to just try? So, thanks.
Double hand raise. And a shimmy and shake. Good job, Jessica. Congratulations. Good job. All right, questions. All right, she wanted to know how we chose, or how do you? Okay, there's ways to go. How do you place your well? I have no idea. Like, I know that they do things like with sticks and, well, I'm just saying, like, that's stuff that people were suggesting. Well, I'll tell you the truth. Like, we were like, Holy Spirit, where's the water? You wanted the truth. I'm giving you the truth. Like, that is the truth. No, I can come up with a fake answer if it makes you feel better, but I literally was like, I'm not doing any of this stick stuff. God, you know where the water's at. Yep, right there. Guess what? 28 gallons per minute. Mic drop.
On a pragmatic note, like, I mean, that is very pragmatic, but on a like, I think as far as picking your well and knowing where the water is, I mean, that's really how we solve that problem. But also, I think that anytime you're homesteading, you need to have a 5-year plan so that you know what you need proximity to. That's a really big thing as well. You might be in a position where you don't have a lot of options on where your well is. It just is where it is. But if you have options and you're trying to choose where to put a well, you really need to know where you want everything to be. That's very important. 5-year plan, we cannot preach that message enough. And I encourage you, when you make your 5-year plan, to come from that place of abundance. Our 5-year plans have always been completely audacious. We do not make our 5-year plans based on what we can practically do. We make our 5-year plans on what we would do if we could do anything. To this point, we have done them. So, thank you, Lord.
Yeah, those things are happening. Yeah, mind in the heavens. There you go. Well, I mean, it goes down to that principle for us. Ephesians 3:20, I'll do infinitely more than you think or ask. So, okay, for example, I'll share with my friend Wes. Y'all have met Wes, great beard, cowboy. He's awesome, right? He comes out to the farm because he's like, man, I just want to be a part of what you're doing. I'm like, okay, cool. So we start working on stuff. We're building that relationship. Now he's my best friend. All right. At the time, we didn't know each other. Oh, you're my second? Yeah. He's my second best friend. No, whoa, slow your roll. Yeah, he's my best guy friend. Guys have their best friend and then their best guy friend. Okay, here's the example. I can write for 15 minutes to Jessica. She's going to ask me 17 times, what are my thoughts and feelings? All right? Guys, you don't have to raise your hands, but I know we're all in the same boat. When as soon as your wife asks that, you have no thoughts and no feelings. That's literally the plug you pulled that drained the swamp. All right. But me and Wes rode 9 hours to go get cows and said nothing. I'm not exaggerating. No music, no words. It was glorious. We both got out of the truck, dropping off the cows, and said, see you tomorrow. That's what I'm saying. All right. Now I don't even remember the question. Ephesians 3:20. So me and Wes are hanging out. We're working on stuff. And I said, Wes, what's your dream? He said, I don't know. I said, well, that's not that hard to exceed. Here's a glass of water. I just exceeded your wildest dreams. Don't be that person. Seriously, okay, someone's coming to you and said, hey, I got infinite money. I'm going to write you a check, blank check. How much you want it for? If you say $100, that's on you. I'm coming up with the biggest fake number I can think of. However many zeros I can, you know what I'm saying? But that's the offer. But really, it's our mindsets of, well, that's too big. That's too hard. That's going to cost too much. I didn't know how the heck we were going to roast beans. We've invested in a roaster. We spent a considerable amount of money getting a building ready. Still have not figured it out until last week. Divine Connection. I've now got a conversation on my way to this place with a Guatemalan family-run farm in Guatemala, cutting out the mainstream industry where it literally gets offloaded at his roaster in Arkansas, of all places, and is going to be coming to us. So this farm has benefited his village, is now impacting his country, and this was like a dream for us, and it's happening on the front end. Because, I don't know, I'm just doing the next thing. My mindset is infinitely more. This was infinitely more than we thought we could do or accomplish. So what are your dreams? If it's something small, change it. Go big or go home.
Yeah, big asks. We don't know how to answer simple questions without this, apparently. Anybody else got another one? We'll see what else. Yes. Yes. So how have I managed with the changes I've had to make with my health in correlation to homesteading? This is one of those things where we talk about provision and we talk about things working out. Roots and Refuge Farm would not have continued creating videos and would not have continued growing food if we had not had Will Kunkel working for us last fall whenever I couldn't get out of bed. Truly, he Jeremiah said I milked. No, truly, these guys totally. But Will had come along. We had hired him, and it was truly exactly what we needed because my health really, really crashed. Now, had we not had Will, we would have shut it down. We would have just shut down what we had to shut down. We shut down a lot. We pared back a lot. We downsized. We did have to lay people off, but we shut it back as far as we had to for me to be able to rest. People often ask me, they'll say, I'm going through a health crisis or I'm having a baby or something's going on in my life, and it's making, take a year off. In wisdom, we are growing food. because we all sense that that's necessary. We acknowledge the fact that the system is broken and we are doing this. But in wisdom, you also have to take care of your body. You have to speak the message to yourself that you're worth taking care of. And so do what you can while taking care of yourself. Do not do this at the cost of taking care of yourself. Because a lot of times we're getting in way over our head. And I would say definitely it has changed for me. Now, after getting through that hump of being able to rest, I have loved gardening so much this year because I'm strong and healthy and rested. And I have really enjoyed it. And now it's not that much change. I can't drink our milk. That stinks. All the dairy that we're producing, right now I can't consume that. I'm primarily just doing meat and some plants out of the garden. And I feel good enough that doesn't feel like a terrible sacrifice. So it's changed some things as far as how I engage. Jeremiah has largely, he's taken over the dairy. And it's good. We still have a lot of families that get milk from us. I see the good in it, but it's not for me. And that's okay. I still see it all as good. The cows are helping keep the gardens going, so that's awesome. But yeah, I think the main thing for me has been just being absolutely honest with myself and not trying to be superwoman and not trying to push through pain and suffering. I did that for a really long time. I told you guys the last time I was at this conference, I had 101-degree fever and I had a terrible infection. And I decided last year I was going to stop speaking the message to myself that I wasn't worth taking care of, that was something really deeply broken in me that I wasn't going to entertain anymore.
You got to take care of yourself. It's right here. Go ahead.
How do you balance all of the work, and in our particular instance, all the content creation, with staying engaged with your family? I do feel like we have a unique situation in that we're both home, and two adults who are working full-time on something can get a lot of stuff done. And then on top of that, we do have a full-time employee that works for us. We have Jeremiah's sister works for us part-time. At this point, Wes works for us part-time. He comes out and helps. So you're seeing the manpower of multiple people go into that. It's community in a lot of ways. Now, it is also true we wouldn't be doing what we're doing on the scale we are. There was a time where we grew a lot of our own food, and it was just us. I did not make 5 or 6 videos a week then. I didn't have the business. And so it is doable to do the farm and do other things. But I would say that it requires a great deal of honesty with myself, not falling into shame when I miss it. I mess up. I miss things. And then just a lot of intentionality. I have a lot of blockers on my phone, app blockers. The biggest suck of my time is social media and just like mindless stuff. If you've ever tried to send me a message, you might not have gotten a response. I'm really sorry. I wish I could, but I was hanging out with my kids. It really does. Coming to the place that you are just okay disappointing people. That's one of the biggest things. I mean, it's very hard to disappoint people, and I realized very much as all of this grew that I was going to disappoint somebody, and I just vowed that it wasn't going to be my husband, my kids, and my closest friends. So...
Yeah, if you got it.
Okay. Yeah. So she was talking about their farm and wanting to switch from outside jobs to farm-supported income. Her daughter's coming up, and she's looking at all of the demand of social media and marketing through social media and saying she doesn't want to switch one rat race for another rat race. And can a farm supply an income reasonably without the media or without it becoming a rat race? Okay, so yeah, without the media becoming a rat race. This is going to feel like maybe a cop-out of advice, but I promise you I feel like this is really a good piece of advice, and so flesh this out. I actually think that doing anything authentically brings benefit. Now, it might not bring worldwide fame. It might not bring book deals. It might not bring all of that stuff. But I see a lot of people trying to create an income and use social media to do that. And they're approaching it, and the main drive to that is their need, okay? Their need to get followers, their need to have success, their need to get an income. And when we are mindful in our relationships, how many relationships are you in with your motivation only being your need that are successful? None. For me, when I look at media and marketing, and there are some things like I've been doing this long enough now that the game has changed a lot since I've been in it. I'm not good at Reels and TikTok. I am so long-winded. Every TikTok that you've ever seen me or Reel you've seen me talking in, I had to shoot it 27 times to get it underneath a minute or however long it has to be. I'm not good at that. I don't like it. And so I don't do it. A lot of the things I do, it's not what you're supposed to do. I think you can break the rules if what you are trying to do is bring value. Okay? You can have needs. Needs are not bad. You need an income. You want to create something to get an income. So view what you can do to bring value in trade for an income. And that's a very different approach. And for people who are wanting to be content creators and people who are wanting to create an at-home income, you have to trade value for those things. Like truly, honestly look at yourself and how you are coming into that relationship. Are you bringing value to the table? So becoming a place in your community is huge. I encourage everybody who is doing this for any period of time, you should be teaching someone else to do this. I know we're not all natural teachers. It might not look like a lesson for you. I couldn't make a PowerPoint to save my life. Some people are very good at that. I'm not one of them. That's okay. Did you learn something? Yes. Like each of us have our own gift to bring, and you can bring value. Teach somebody. For people who are teaching in their community and selling, it's reciprocal relationship. And so I do think that it's possible. There have been times that the social media thing feels like a rat race to me. I have a thing that I say. I don't want to be a girl boss. I want to be a Proverbs 31 woman. I'm not here to hustle. Like I want to show up. I want to bring value. I want to be real, and I want my needs met, and I want to meet other people's needs. So I think that it's definitely doable if you do not fall into an unhealthy relationship with the audience that you're trying to build. You have to let it be reciprocal. Okay, what time is it? We got a little bit of time. All right.
10 minutes.
Okay, yeah. Okay, what method do we find our dairy cows? What method did we go about to find our dairy cows? So my first one came from a local friend. That was great. The next one I found actually on Craigslist. And then I know they say not to do that.
In doing that, though, just educate yourself on what you're looking for, okay? Like, Jessica could do that because Jessica knows what a healthy cow is, what different genetics are going to bring, what size are her teats, what kind of attachment does her udder have, how much what's her body weight. Know what a healthy, if you're looking for a jersey, what is a healthy jersey, what's an unhealthy jersey. Like, if you don't know this, you don't know what you're getting. You know what I'm saying? If I go shop for a horse with Wes, like, we know what we're looking for. Like, I'm not going to get bamboozled into some bad horse because I know how to check, okay, this is a good horse, this is not. So that would be step one. Educate yourself on what you're getting.
Yeah. There's a Facebook page called Milk Cow Market, and we actually found Fern and Freya on there. We had to drive, like he and Wes drove to Maryland. They did talk on the way to Maryland. They're not weirdos that drive 9 hours without talking the whole time. And they talked on the way, and on the way back, they didn't have anything else to say. So they had to drive up to Maryland for them, but I knew what we were looking for. The questions that you want to ask is if they're disease tested. You obviously want to know if they have been milked, if they've been hand milked or machine milked. Have they given birth before? If they're bred, who are they bred to? I would tell you on animals, cheap animals are rarely a good deal. There are the rare cases. I mean, I got Hope for a really good deal because it was a local person who was emotionally invested and wanted to see her go to a good place. She was a friend. And that that was a good deal. And Hope is a really good cow that I got for $1,000. My other cows were much more than $1,000. And a lot of the cows that you see listed for $500, $750, you're not setting yourself up. It is really best to invest in good infrastructure and invest in quality animals, because you are setting yourself up for failure if you get an animal that's just going to die and you're that much further behind. So, yeah, but Milk Cow Market on Facebook is where they came from. And then, again, local community is a really big thing in that, because once you start building that local community, word gets around. Whenever my friend Hannah went to sell another one of her cows, I talked to some local friends. They bought her. Getting into a local community can open up a lot of those resources that don't get listed. And that's a lot of times how you get a good deal on a good animal.
And then you become the crazy cow person. Calculus. All right, we got maybe one more. Right here? Not our website.
Is it? I think that the videos might. I think through the Homestead Festival is where. Yeah, the Homestead Festival website. Yeah, you will be able to slow release. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Megan. So we have all the Devons. We have not had any Jersey Devon crosses yet. Helen is due in like a month, so we'll see how that goes. But our Devons are all doing well. Our Jerseyers are all doing well. We just actually had a new Devon. I wasn't there. It was born while I was gone.
Yeah, all of the calves, like, if you've watched the channel a while, Jessica's always out of town whenever babies are born on the farm.
I'm always out of town. It just happens.
She was there for when Honey dropped her giant bull calf, but she had already left for this trip because she left separately from me. And then our last Devon dropped its calf. I actually don't even know what it is. Could be a bull, could be a heifer. I don't know.
All right. Yes, let's get your question.
Go ahead.
So she said she came to learn about permaculture and got even more than she knew, but practical advice for learning about permaculture. So on a very practical note, Bill Mollison was kind of like the granddaddy of permaculture. He has a couple of books out. They are the textbooks that most permaculture courses use. So if you wanted to really dive in, it's a lot of information. There's a book called Gaia's Garden, Gaias. Gaia's Garden, and that's a little easier to digest. It's also cheaper, with the others being textbooks. I think the big fat one is like over $100 or something like that. But Gaia's Garden is a good resource. And then, of course, Joel Salatin has a ton of stuff. Justin's got a new book out called, I think it's Permaculture Builds or Homestead Builds. He's Kickstartering right now that has a lot of stuff. And then if you really want to dive in, if you look into permaculture certification courses, there is an extremely extensive course through OSU, Oregon State, that it's online, so people can go on. I think it runs about $700, but you'll be certified at the end. If what you're looking for is to actually make a business out of it, I don't think that's necessarily where people need to start, but it is a good resource, so that's just some things.
All right, also in that, though, I want to give you a disclaimer and release you to not feel judged and shamed, all right? I don't know if any of you are here. I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, but there's a lot of permaculture purists who will make you feel stupid as you're going through your process. Don't. Someone asked me, recently in a meeting, this guy, super passionate about permaculture. He said, "Are you a permaculturist?" I said, "Yeah, I'm learning permaculture." I said, "I'm not a permaculture purist. I don't have my cows right now are not on rotational grazing. I have not had the time to set up my cross fences, so I will get there." You know what I'm saying? You are on a journey. You're not going to make 100 yards in your first step. You're not going to get to being a permaculturist at the top level as you start. That would be silly to think that. But sometimes, you'll approach it and you'll feel like, oh, I'm not doing this right. Start the process. Learn to do something, apply it. Once you have applied it, go to the next thing. There's lots of permaculture methods that I know about that I have not had a chance to implement because I can't do everything at the same time. All right,
so that's going to be it for the questions. I want to say thank you so much for sitting here with us today and enduring the heat. to hear us. Daniel wanted to add something, so I'm going to hand this to him, and then we're going to get out of here.
So I wanted to start off by praying over you guys, but then I want to do something. I've witnessed Jeremiah and Jessica pray over so many of you during this festival, and I know that they've inspired so many of you. So after I pray over you guys, I was wondering if all of us could stretch our hands towards them and then pray over them. Awesome. Well, Lord, I just thank you for this word today, God. I thank you for the direction. I thank you for the encouragement about the relationship and all things. And God, I just pray that this will be saturated into our minds and our hearts, and that we can leave this place considering the relationship amongst all things. And also, we can leave this place being an encourager to the people that are around us the way that Jeremiah and Jessica are encouragers unto us. And so let's all stretch our hands towards them right now. God, we thank you for Jeremiah and Jessica Sowards. Lord, we thank you for Roots and Refuge Farm. We thank you for this Homesteading Festival, and we thank you for things like this happening in the earth, because it's a big deal, God. It's a big deal, the changes that are happening. And God, it's a big deal, the voice that Jeremiah and Jessica have. And so, God, we just pray blessings upon them. God, we pray that you would just lavish upon them, that you would encourage them, God, and continue leading them in the way that they are meant to be a voice in this culture and in this earth, Lord Jesus. And all together we say over them, we bless you until next time.
Thank you. All right, guys, we're going to head out of the tent. We would love, if you have not come by and talked to us, I'm calling you out. Like, you better. That's the point. We're going to head back over to the Caroline Homestead Exchange so we can clear the tent out for Thanksgiving.